Hi, I'm Danny from Northwest Spiritual Living,
And I'm Sherry Hoffman with the North Seattle Spiritual Sangha.
and we're here speaking with Susanna Marie, spiritual teacher extraordinaire.
Thank you for that. I hope I can live up to it.
Par excellence, I forgot.
Yes.
So, all right, I have a question here, and
Yeah.
I've heard others talk about this, and this was my experience as a child. Some of us report experiencing a lot of awakeness throughout our childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any advantage to this, or is it actually a detriment for spiritual seeking later on? Um, for myself, I had traps at times referring back to that and maybe kind of trying to duplicate it or replicate it or something. I don't know. What did I give you enough there
So
for a
that
question?
you had spiritual experiences and you're wondering if that is a trap later on of wanting to.
As a child, I recognize now there was just a lot of openness. I love the word openness, and this is how I'm using it. A lot of beauty, profound joy, love, just that uh, looking out from a tree I had climbed, or stepping into a meadow filled with sunlight and dappled with flowers, or or just ordinary things too. There was just a lot of love and beauty in my childhood. I recognized it, and I've heard this from others as well. And I wonder, because you're coming into contact with a lot of seekers, do you hear about this, and is there any problems one way or another, or that you would say, or?
Right. Whenever someone says to me, I remember this from when I was a child, and connect with that, I feel like there's a moment of innocence that's being re-evoked. And it feels like it's this moment in time that's being held that helps support us. It's like nourishment, little drops of nourishment that I think we absolutely need, the soul food. And I feel like it does contribute to our wanting to come back to the garden, with and we call them spiritual experiences maybe, but really what if it's just more our natural state, right? And we're desiring that, to return back to that kind of natural state, natural innocence, a place that is, simply itself, untouched, and just simply itself, before the overlay of the conceptual mind really took hold. I don't see it as an impediment at all. If it can be left in context, put into context, like, we won't be returning back to that per se, but that's meant to nourish and remind us of what is possible now. What's possible now, that we still may have that secret garden inside of us, and that every moment can be a reminder of the wonder and magic that is really here.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you saying we're joy beings and we can access that wonder and magic. It's all here
Yes.
for us inside.
Yeah, we can be children together again, again, with that innocence, but with the maturity that we are too, with the ability to really know that this is so precious. That's something we add in our maturity, because we know how time is going. And when we're a child, we don't have, we're so innocent to development. And so now when preciousness arises, there's an added capacity to be in gratitude. That gets added. I think when we're children and we have this precious moment, it's just like we're just in the moment. We're just here now in awe and wonder, just, this is just what is. But later we have the capacity to reflect on it too and go, when something arises, this is precious. And an added kind of sweetness can come in.
Yeah. Gratitude makes all the difference.
Yes.
We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, Susanna, but I'd like to kind of talk about it a little bit more. What are your thoughts on the search for enlightenment, and what are the possible pitfalls of sort of making that your goal in life, or do you think there's any pitfalls in some people searching for enlightenment?
Is ignorance bliss?
You can ask the average person on the street, how much bliss are they in? So, I mean, the Buddha said that life is suffering. And that's because we haven't remembered our essential nature in the midst of living our life. So I think that for those who have come to a place inside that want to know what else is going on besides this, the fulfillment of immediate fulfillment of our needs, when we see that really actually isn't giving us what we're ultimately wanting, we start looking for something else. And we can remember what we were just talking about, which was this innocence of our childhood, that there's remembering inside. We wouldn't go after something if we didn't have a feeling for it. So we remember inside that there's an innocent place, there's something that's free of being bound. And so we long for that. And then we hear about enlightenment and realization, and we go whatever journeys we go on within that, right? The pitfalls I would see is but life teaches us also through pitfalls. Let me see here. Well, there's so many types of pitfalls. There's following a false teacher, a teacher who is not in integrity. There's creating a conceptual idea of what realization is and enlightenment is, and believing that it's something you're going to have, like a car, or like a personality trait. So the pitfalls are our beliefs about it, our beliefs of what it's going to give you, because really it empties you. And we can hear that, but then we don't necessarily want to believe it. We still want to believe it's going to give us. Really, most of us are looking for peace and the ease of our suffering, which leads us to it, right? But how we get there and how we gain that isn't the way we think we're going to do. So I think that having a direct teaching is so important, and that can even come through nature. It doesn't have to come through a person. There's some really good teachers out there. I recommend not just with teachers, but with yourself, following your heart. How do you feel when you're with somebody? And it's not about just like what kind of transmission you're getting, right? It's also like how you feel inside of you. Do you feel confused? Do you like some things and not others? And, that could be the mind, but in your being, in your body, feel in your body. How do you feel when you're with somebody? Or it's not just a teacher, it's with people in general. It's a good, yardstick. How do you feel? How do you feel in any situation at work and so on? How do you feel in your body? Does it feel nourishing? And sometimes things can get stirred up too. I'm not saying they don't. Don't think you're always supposed to feel good. But in general, do you feel accepted, loved, welcomed? Yeah. So the pitfalls are when our confusion chooses in a confusing way. We choose from a confused place, and we are blinded by our own shadow and trauma. And then we go down the road of choosing a teacher who is not clear in terms of teachers. But then again, maybe, hopefully, the course will be righted. We might go through a big heartache and disappointment. And I work with people who have been disappointed and hurt by teachers. It can feel like a big betrayal, because what we're looking for, a lot of us unconsciously, is an unconditional and loving mother and father. We're put a lot on teachers too. We have to see what we're doing too. Yeah.
I like what you said about trust. Trust your body, trust your intuition, and
trust your gut. Yeah. Gut instinct.
Point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So we have just over 3 minutes here on this, and so some of us can point to a definite moment of awakening. Others seem to be awakening gradually. It seems to be happening in all kinds of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But do you see any special difficulties that arise inherent to each of those manifestations? I mean,
the gradual and the sudden kind of thing? The gradual and the sudden?
Yes. And I'm asking because you see a lot of seekers, you know. So I figure you have experience with it.
Oh. Well, I feel like that even with sudden, there's been a building up, a ripening. It could be from other lifetimes. It could be just in this lifetime. So many things are going on behind the surface, you know, encountering the loss of loved ones, raising children, having heartbreak in relationship, just discovering what works and what doesn't work with friendship. All these things are ripening us. Life ripens us. Life is the teacher. Life is the ultimate teacher. So even if it seems like sudden, you know, the curtain parts, well, there's been a lot of activity going on behind that curtain. Sets are being rearranged and taken down over and over, and all kinds of learning is happening. And then the curtains say parts and go, ta-da! You know, the lights come on in the stadium and like, you're on. No, yes. And there's been so much going on behind the scenes. Okay? Gradual is just a description of what's happening anyway. Even those who seemingly are not on some spiritual path, life itself is marinating them, even if it seems very incrementally. So the gradual path is the life itself taking away what it's built up, which is the sense of being an I. So the gradual path is like, let's say it's like you have an island with sand all around it, a little sweet island. The ocean's going to take the sand bit by bit, right? Eventually, maybe some big tsunami will come and take a big chunk away, and that will be more of a sudden thing, but it's still doing it. But the gradual thing is happening in the midst of it. And even with sudden, guess what? I've said in our little meeting here that now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, that there are many awakenings. So sudden can happen, and then another sudden, and then another sudden down the road, and gradual in between. But I work with a lot of people, I'll just finish this, that I work with a lot of people who are mostly gradual. But even then, they'll be like having ahas here and there, like, oh, I just saw that my thoughts aren't real, or, oh, I can really feel how I'm defending my heart, and I don't want to do that anymore. You know, these ahas, these real ahas, they get it. How they're just hurting themselves by being defended. So these are like little crests in the waves, you know?
Yeah, I like that visual about the island and the sand, and I like that. I can really relate to that.
I love the way you point. I love the way you point.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
It's
Susanna.
time for break.
We'll take a break.
All right. We'll be back.
Yeah.